Chapter 13, The Misplaced Spirit. Who says I'm a ghost? Miss Amanda folds her arms and her bangle bracelets jingle together. Ghost is a right terrible word. Why? I didn't know a ghost would have a preference for what they were called. She tilts her head, considering. Well, ghost, it just sounds so haunting. But isn't that what you're doing here, haunting the woods? Now, would you really call this haunting? Miss Amanda sweeps her arm wide and refers to the tea and biscuits, the patio furniture, the shiny silver trailer. I mean, it's actually the nicest little spot of color and pleasant smells that I could imagine. There's nothing particularly haunting about any of it, except for the way Miss Amanda moves things without quite touching them. Well, no, I guess not, I say. I tap my fingers against my bare knee. Now that I know Miss Amanda is the ghost from the night of the storm, I have questions. Several important questions, in fact. Maybe she can tell me about who I am and what happened to my family. Well, I'm not a ghost in my estimation, Miss Amanda says. I'm a misplaced spirit with some business to attend to. You mean the business with Mr. Bixley? I ask. Well, I've lost something that I need to find. She's lost something? I've lost a family, and that's a pretty big thing to lose. All my questions begin spilling out, and I can't stop them. Well, if you were here that night, did you see how I came to the zoo? Do you know who my family is? Do you know what happened to them? It feels like the wind, only a light breeze now, snatches every one of my questions and suspends them all in midair. Miss Amanda's blue eyes are calm and clear and young-looking if I stare straight into them, but as soon as I do, I have to look away. I'm afraid I will see that confused look of hers again, and that it will mean that she can't remember. I focus on her hands, which are long and slender, with wrinkles as soft as her flowing scarf. Now, I'm sorry, Lexington Willa. I remember seeing the elephant wrap you up like a baby, protecting you from the wind and the rain and hiding you from view. But I didn't see anyone with you. If you had family with you that night, they weren't here when I saw you. I inhale a sharp breath of the green-scented air. I've known for a long time that my family is probably dead because of that tornado. Deep inside, I know I'll probably never find out who they were. The wind silence on the subject has hinted at that. I wonder what will happen if I take a sip of that cranberry spice tea from the cup in front of me. Can you drink tea prepared by a ghost? Can you trust a ghost you just met to tell the truth about what they saw 7 years ago after a storm? I half expect her tea to be impossible to drink, but I try it anyway. It's real and it's cold, and the fruity spice tastes as good as it smells. It doesn't take away my disappointment, but it's sweet. Sweet and sour go together well sometimes. You know what, though, Miss Amanda adds. You sparked a memory by coming here and talking to me. Maybe if we keep talking, I can remember something else. I think my memories are all still in here somewhere, you see. She taps the side of her head with her finger. I take another sip and set the teacup back onto its saucer. I like this idea that I might be able to wake up her memories and set them loose. Does Frank Bixley know he's doing business with a misplaced spirit? I ask, lifting one of the biscuits from the plate. It might be ghost food, but I'm not worried about it anymore. I was clearly supposed to meet Miss Amanda. I bite into the biscuit, and it's buttery soft, and it flakes apart in my mouth. Oh, Frank, Miss Amanda sighs. He's a lonely one now, isn't he? Frank Bixley? Lonely? I haven't ever thought of Mr. Bixley as anything but the general manager with lots of rules and lots to say. He lives in the only other residence on the zoo property, in a small house at the top of the zoo hill and west of the gift shop. Well, I used to work at the Lexington Zoo before I became misplaced, she adds. Frank knew me back then. Now, it's weird she doesn't just say that Frank knew her when she was alive. But maybe ghosts who don't like to be called ghosts also don't like to be called dead. And did you live out here in the woods then? I ask, imagining a version of Miss Amanda in life, watering flowers in the flower box and riding the bright red bicycle that's leaning against the trailer. Miss Amanda tilts her head like she's considering, although I can't understand why she would have to remember whether or not she lived here. I mean, we're sitting on her patio furniture and drinking from her teacups, for heaven's sake. Of course she lived here. The wind blows the striped pink awning overhead, and rosy hues flicker across Miss Amanda's face. Darn it, that awning didn't weigh a ton when I tried to put it down in that dreadful storm. Miss Amanda waves her arm at the poles supporting the awning. Wait, I swallow a mouthful of buttery biscuit. You were alive when the storm came? Well, I guess I must have been. Why would a misplaced spirit need to take down an awning? But you were a ghost when you showed Roger where to find me. Misplaced spirit, Miss Amanda corrects me. Sorry, I say. You were a misplaced spirit after the storm, and when Roger was checking the railroad tracks and saw you. Miss Amanda nods. Well, I suppose that's because the wind caught the canopy and the whole thing slammed down fast and hit me on the head. She straightens her hat again as if the memory had knocked it crooked. So, I try to avoid the words Miss Amanda seems to dislike so much. So, you became a misplaced spirit that night? I've often wondered if people can choose what they do and where they go after they die. If Miss Amanda stayed around the zoo, could my parents have done the same thing? So then you hung around here so you could show Roger where I was? Well, Miss Amanda narrows her eyes in concentration. I suppose. She presses her lips together and taps one finger against them. Her bracelets jingle in rhythm with the motion. I look more carefully at the awning and the trailer and everything, and it all looks new and undamaged. The trailer's silver shines in the slanted sunlight as if somebody has just washed and polished it. The awning isn't broken or torn. How can this have been here for 7 years and still look so clean and new? Well, I may have stayed around here for another reason, Miss Amanda says. Now, don't get me wrong, darling. Of course, I'd want to help find someone to take care of you and get you out of the elephant habitat. But that's not why I'm still here. Is it that business that you have with Mr. Bixley? I ask. There's something lost that you need to find? She nods. I hid something here that needs to be returned to someone. Well, at least I think I hid it here. Miss Amanda, that's not very specific. If there's one thing that I've learned from Miss Lee's writing skills lessons, it's the importance of being specific. Well, yes, I am missing some important details, and I don't know about ghosts, and I don't know about souls who have gone on to wherever it is they're supposed to be. But for me, it's like the creek rolls too high, and I can't get across. I don't have all the pieces, but I sure have to fix it. And I could use some help if you're willing. She offered me a plate of biscuits, and I take another. My head is now spinning with the thoughts of helping a ghost with scattered memories remember things that she forgot. Maybe she'll remember seeing me with my family. Maybe she'll know something about who I am. The real reason I want to help her, though, the very real reason, is a 6,000-pound pachyderm who somehow reached into my mind and showed me Miss Amanda, these woods, and some elephants. And because I think it mattered a lot to Naya that I come here to find Miss Amanda. I'll help you, I say. Miss Amanda reaches across the table as if to pat my hand, but she stops, and I pull back at the same time. Maybe she knows her hand will go right through mine. I don't want to find out if it will. She smiles anyway. Well, since you've been here asking me about Frank Bixley, I remembered something that I couldn't remember before. We need to start with the gift shop. I think I hid it in the gift shop behind a loose board. Hid what? What are we looking for? Miss Amanda's eyes widen as the wind moves the branches, creating an opening for an angle of sunlight beneath the awning. It catches the blue from her scarf and her eyes at the same time. We're looking for a lost treasure. Chapter 14, Lost Time. I missed lunch with Roger at the Wild Eats Cafe. I never miss lunch with Roger, but it seems you don't know how much time is passing when you have your first conversation with an actual ghost. Apparently the odd shadows traveling over Miss Amanda's striped pink awning happened because the sun was moving in its path across the sky, and I didn't feel the time passing. I left Miss Amanda at her silver trailer, promising to return soon and promising to bring Fisher. I headed straight for the Giraffe Encounter's blue roof to follow the fence line back to the parking lot, and that's when I heard it. The music for the Birds of Prey show. Now the show is new, but I already know the schedule. The first show's at 1 o'clock. Somehow I sat and had tea and biscuits with Miss Amanda for more than 3 hours. Now I don't know what Roger will say about me missing our lunch. I mean, Roger doesn't get mad, so I'm not worried about that. And I think he'll understand when I explain that I met the ghost, and this'll be big news, and I plan to tell him. I'll explain what happened with the time and why I never showed up for lunch just as soon as I take Fisher to see Miss Amanda. I'll be extra careful not to stay so long this time. I'm not very hungry after tea and biscuits with the ghost, but as I wait for the city bus's 1:20 arrival, I buy 2 frozen lemonades with the $6 that I have left in my pocket. Vendors on the street corner don't offer zoo staff discounts. At least I didn't miss Fisher's return when I was stuck in some weird time pocket at Miss Amanda's trailer. I'm pretty lucky I ended up at the zoo where Fisher lives. We pretend we're the same age, Fisher and I. And since we have no idea when my birthday is or how old I am exactly, we decided that I must have been born the same year as Fisher. That way we can do things at the same time, like learning the same things for school, sort of, and being old enough to help with the elephant training. Since I arrived at the zoo on June 9, that's the day that I chose for my birthday. It's sort of an anniversary anyway. And that means that I'll be 12 next week. Sometimes it feels like Fisher is older than me. It felt like he was the older one when he told those girls at Lexington Elementary to lay off or he'd bring the meanest baboon to their houses so it could eat their heads. Fisher and I both got sent home that day, but he'd shut those girls down. Other times it feels like I'm the older one, like when Fisher doesn't know how to talk to his own mom or when he says he could never stay in the zoo all day like I do. It really sounds like whining. Right now, I feel like the older one, because I know something that Fisher doesn't know, and I'm on a first-name basis with the zoo ghost. The bus approaches from the other end of Wild Kingdom Avenue, and as I step toward the curb, stretching myself as tall as I can for a glimpse of Fisher's hat in the bus windows, I notice that the condensation from the no longer frozen lemonades drips icy water down my arms. The lemonades are still cold, though, and I think Fisher will appreciate that after playing baseball in the humid heat. The bus pulls up to the stop. Suddenly, I wonder whether Fisher will believe me. Maybe it's best to just take him into the woods and let him see all this for himself. "Hey, see you tomorrow, slugger," said the bus driver, chuckling as Fisher appears at the front of the bus and starts down the steps. He's covered in red baseball diamond dirt, and he's carrying his soiled Kansas City Royals hat, and his hair is plastered to his head with sweat. He moves like he's walking through something heavy, but he's smiling. Fisher waves at the bus driver, who waves back and pulls the doors shut. The bus creaks and growls and drives away. "You look like you could use these," I say, holding out the dripping lemonades. "Wow, thanks." Fisher takes one from me, removes the lid, and drinks for a long time. "Did you have fun?" "Mm-hmm," he answers as he drinks. His eyes are closed, and a drop of sweat carves a path from his forehead down the side of his face to his jaw, where it pauses for a second and then drops to the ground. "So you're doing this every morning, huh?" Fisher lowers his cup and wipes his forehead. "Yeah, well, Monday to Friday anyway." Well, I guess it's a good thing you like it. I wait while Fisher has another drink. Finally, he says, You know, it's not the heat that's the problem. It's the air-conditioned bus. If you never felt the air conditioning, the outside wouldn't seem so bad. Your body can get used to one climate or the other. It's going back and forth that gets you. Yeah. He points at the other lemonade in my hand. Hey, are you going to drink that? No, it's for you if you want it. Oh, I do. I hand it to him. Thanks. He stacks the full cup into the empty one and starts walking in the direction of the long zoo parking lot in the front gate. I stop at the edge of the grass. Fisher walks ahead toward the first row of cars until he realizes that I'm not walking alongside of him. He turns around. His backpack has now slid off his shoulder, and he hasn't bothered to pull it up again. It bangs awkwardly against his legs. I smile. Hey, you want to see something cool? His eyes widen. Did you go in the woods? Did you figure out what Niall was telling you? Well, I figured out something, I say, smiling, but it's better if I show you. Now? Why, you got another baseball lesson to get to? Fisher bobs his head a little and shrugs, admitting that I do have a point. He might be tired and dirty from playing baseball all morning, but we both know that if he goes home, his mom is going to give him work to do or send him out to help his dad, which will result in Fisher taking out a lot of garbage from a lot of maintenance sheds. Fisher follows me through the long grasses toward the trees. He coughs as our movement stirs up fresh clouds of bugs and weed dust. Please tell me this is in the shade, Fisher calls. Oh, it is. I stay within view of the fence line until we're even with the ape house roof and the chimps climbing poles, and from there we angle away from the zoo deeper on into the trees. I take Fisher past the fallen logs to the place where I notice Miss Amanda's scarf flowing in the breeze. My breath catches as we get closer. It's still amazing and dreamlike to think of seeing and talking with a ghost. She's not sitting outside this time, but as I step over the last fallen tree toward the spot where I had tea and biscuits only a half hour ago, I stop suddenly. Wow, Fisher breathes. Cool, what a wreck. How long do you think this thing's been here? My mouth is all cottony. It's hard to form words, but I manage. About 7 years. The silver trailer and its awning are not what I saw only a half hour ago. The trailer is dented where something big, perhaps a tree trunk, long ago slammed into its side. The poles that held up the awning have been yanked out of their holes and are twisted and rusty. The fabric that was once a striped pink awning dangles from the poles in shreds. It is now more brown and yellow than it is pink. The table and chairs where Miss Amanda and I sat are scattered around the clearing, upside down or on their sides. Most of the furniture is broken, with bits of the wood missing. I don't understand, I whisper. Don't you? Taunts the wind. Is this not what you wanted to show me? Fisher is walking through the wreckage and lifts a piece of awning fabric off the rusted red bicycle. I don't think we should touch this, I say. Why not? What about inside this old trailer? Hey, did you go in there? Fisher's eager face looks like I just gave him the best present in the world. No, Fisher, stop. My voice isn't projecting right. It's coming out all airy. And Fisher doesn't hear me, or else he doesn't listen. He's climbing up the trailer steps and now trying the door. I feel that flying away feeling again, like the wind could take me at any moment, and I don't have anything to hold me down. Fisher, stop! He stops, his hand frozen on the trailer door handle. This isn't what I wanted to show you. Please don't touch any of it. Lex? Fisher has that look he gets when he thinks that I'm not making sense. He tilts his head slightly to the side, and his dark eyes reflect a blend of laughter with concern. Like how I would imagine an older brother might look at his silly little sister who's about to cry. Lex, what's wrong? He drops his backpack to the ground and it settles into the mass of leaves and sticks with a crunch. He sits on the trailer step and stares at me, waiting for an explanation. I don't know how to explain, but I sit down on the step next to him. I think of Naya and how she wanted to tell me something. When she wanted to tell me something, she just did it. And so I start at the beginning. I tell Fisher about my search in the trees and the wind nagging at me, saying I shouldn't be here, about the light blue scarf rippling through the trees. I tell him about Miss Amanda with her southern accent and her fancy clothes and how she looked like the woman that Naya had showed me. Fisher's a good listener. In all of this, he points at the wreck in front of us and the damaged trailer behind us. It was perfect, I say. It was shiny and it was new, and the table was set up. I wade through the blanket of dead leaves to the exact spot. Over here, and she had tea, spicy tea in a fat little teapot. And I drank her tea and I ate her buttery biscuits until I was full. Fisher's face is surprisingly still. He hardly moves at all except to blink his eyelids. And then he nods very small, as though he's realizing something, and he waits for me to continue. I tell him what Miss Amanda said about knowing Frank Bixley, about Roger, about working at the zoo and showing Roger where to find me, about the storm, about her death. Fisher turns very slowly to look at the trailer door behind him. She died in the storm that brought you here? I swallow my cottony spit and sit next to him again. 7 years ago. Wow. Fisher's eyes widen and he's looking at the wreckage. She said she died when the awning fell and hit her in the head, I almost whisper. I close my eyes, hoping that somehow all of this will transform into the way that it looked before. Shutting out the sight of Miss Amanda's broken furniture makes the hum and chatter from beyond the distant zoo fence louder in my ears. The low growl of the howler monkeys isn't usual for this time of day, yet they howl as if they know that something strange is happening. The whooping cranes let loose a bugle call as Fisher taps me on the shoulder. My eyelids fly open. I'm surprised at you, Lex, Fisher says with a mischievous grin. What do you mean? Does he think I'm making this up? Fisher raises his eyebrows. You brought me here to meet a ghost and didn't even think to warn me? Well, Fisher reaches to the ground beneath the step, grabs a handful of wild grass and tosses at me. I'm kidding, he says, laughing. Seriously, this is really cool. You met the ghost. The ghost. Roger used to talk about it all the time. The ghost who appeared while he was inspecting the railroad tracks after the storm and told him that he needed to go rescue a little girl. You met her. The wind rustles the branches, but I don't fear blowing away anymore. I'm solid. I'm stuck to the ground. I'm safe. So you do believe me? Fisher pauses, turning over a single blade of grass in his fingers and rolling it into a little ball. It just doesn't surprise me that you saw a ghost. Just because I haven't seen a ghost doesn't mean they aren't out there. I want to hug him. Instead, I elbow him in the ribs, but not hard. She says she prefers to be called a misplaced spirit. Oh, really? And she's stuck here because she has something that she needs to finish. I told her that I'd help her. Fisher flicks away the little blade of grass and looks into my eyes with his deep brown ones. Help her do what? Well, she says that she had a treasure and needs help finding it and returning it to the rightful owner. And I think that it might be stolen or something. Fisher looks as though he may never need to play baseball again to be happy. What else did she say? He's leaning forward on the step like he might launch out of the woods and over the zoo fence to the ape house. Well, she says that her memories are a mess and that the longer she's a ghost, the less of her life that she remembers. But she remembers things when I get her talking, and she remembers the treasure because it's the thing she needs to fix. That's why she needs my help. Our help. I added that little last bit at the end, hopeful that Fisher will take the bait. He's never turned down a possible adventure for as long as I've known him. Fisher nods, waiting for the rest. She said that we should try the gift shop. Miss Amanda recalled a single detail before I left her sipping her tea in the woods. She remembers that she hid the treasure behind a loose board. In the gift shop, Fisher repeats. He actually launches off the step. Not all the way out of the woods as I imagined, but his pre-baseball practice energy is now definitely back. He clasps his hands together and holds them on top of his head like he's keeping his thoughts together. Oh my God, Lex, there's definitely a loose board in the gift shop. Well, at least there was. I don't know if Mr. Bixley has had it fixed after all these years, but I remember where it is. You do? Fisher's enthusiasm now changes everything. He believes what I'm telling him without needing any proof. It melts away my disappointment in finding the real destroyed state of Miss Amanda's abandoned property. We leave her trailer and the wreckage behind, swatting away rising clouds of gnat swarms as we run, not even caring that afternoon storm clouds with the smell of rain are rolling in from the south. We have treasure to find.